Hi everyone, this is Diva from Blood Hunter, and you're listening to the Metal Pit podcast.
Welcome to the Metal Pit podcast. Each week we delve deep into the albums and bands that shaped metal. Please visit our website, The Metal Pit, which is www.themetalpit.org, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Metal Pit, and on our YouTube channel, which is at The Metal Pit 666. And you can follow the podcast on Instagram also, which is at the Metal Pit Podcast. Yes. And you can email me podcast at themetalpit.org if you have any suggestions, or maybe if you want to be a guest on an episode. Let's see. I'm your host, Blake. I guess I didn't say that. And my guest today is one of my writers at the Metal Pit, Georgina.
Hi, Blake. Hi, everyone. Very well, thank you. What's up, everybody?
Now I've got this. It's been a couple of weeks. Our last one was Soundgarden, also.
Yeah,
I had a couple of weeks been off, and I'm trying to get back to normal here, where I'll do one a week again. So here we are in the middle of the week that this will be released, and hopefully we'll get back on track and do it back to once every Saturday again.
Awesome.
So I had a busy week. We lost a bunch of writers. They went on to do their own thing. So I want to thank them for all the help they gave when they were on the Metal Pit, and I wish them all the best in whatever they're doing, or whatever they do.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say do, but anyway. And but I have found like 7 new people that are going to join the Metal Pit website. But if you're listening and you think you'd like to write album reviews or interview some bands, or maybe be a guest on the podcast sometimes, please email me at info@themetalpit.org and tell me why you would like to write for the Metal Pit. And just so you know, this is volunteer. I'm not making any money. I'm just doing this to promote music and have fun. So just remember that I can't pay anyone, since I'm losing money myself.
Drop Blake a line, everybody.
So anyway, I'm going to let Georgina say what we're going to talk about today.
Oh boy, we are going to discuss one of my favorite bands ever, Faith No More, and the album Angel Dust.
Sorry, yes. And Faith No More is one of my favorite bands too, as some people will know.
Yes.
Podcasts and
yes.
So we're doing Angel Dust, which is the 4th Faith No More album, the 2nd with Mike Patton on vocals, and the last with Jim Martin on the guitar, which I'm sure we'll get to. Actually, might get to that. First, I'm just going to say a little bit about Faith No More. Formed in San Francisco in 1979. They've had lineup changes. Well, everybody's had lineup changes. Been around that long. But for this album, right, it's Mike Patton on vocals, Jim Martin guitar, Billy Gould on bass, Roddy Bottom on keyboards, and Mike Borden on drums. And I think all those guys are still in the band except Jim Martin, even though they're not really. They toured a few years ago, I think, but I don't know if they're gonna do anything else ever again or not. I'm not really sure. Now Faith No More, of course, the real thing. The first album with Mike Patton was the one that really broke them into the mainstream, largely due to their hit single Epic, which was like rap and metal mixed together. But I did read, I don't know if I have it in here, but since Mike Patton came in and all the songs were already wrote, he just had to sing them. So he likes this album better because this is where he got to really put his lyrics and his input into the album. So, what about, now we did do the real thing before. We probably did this question again, but I don't know. Do you want to say again, when did you first hear Faith No More? Was it in the schoolyard?
Everything is in the schoolyard. You know that. I always write schoolyard, and I always tell everybody that it's the same old swan song, that I learned all of my, the majority of my metal stuff was in the schoolyard, for sure. And this was probably one of those albums. It's either Woolworths or the schoolyard. That's basically where the foundation of heavy metal and rock and roll began, Blake. For sure.
No, I don't remember what I said in the Real Thing episode. But I don't even know if I really remember. I probably was Epic that I'd seen first. Is probably how I discovered them. Probably, but I'm not really sure, and it doesn't really matter. So this album, Angel Dust, 1992. It was even though The Real Thing was their breaking out album, this album's a lot different from that one. As The Real Thing was a more straightforward album or whatever, and this one has a whole bunch of different genres in it: metal, funk, jazz, ambient, pop, whatever. Sound clips from movies and TV shows and other bands, and everything is in here. And I think that's one reason I like Faith No More, is that every song is different. They don't sound the same very often from song to song, from album to album. What do you think?
I mean, it's such I love this band. And I really, really love Mike Patton. Like, I think he's my forever crush. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I love him. If anyone looks like him, drop me a DM. It's a mesmerizing album. I mean, I love every single Faith No More album that's ever been put out, and this is just I have so much to say about it. It's a mesmerizing album from a band that unfortunately no longer exists, and it's kind of like a paradox of chaos with these like excellent lyrics and phenomenal musicianship, and Mike Patton's vocals make it arguably one of the finest records, at least for me, of the 90s. And I think ever since I love the versatility of Mike, and I think he's brilliant. I think he's actually genius on an intellectual level. And I've been on a quest to kind of find a band with something similar with the ultimate frontman that is Mike. And I believe he's someone who kind of embodied the real thing, and he was capable of like delivering an album of the year, so to speak, and he could be reigning and singing like the king for a day, but in reality he was a fool for a lifetime. Like, I'm like throwing in some lyrics in there, and someone who generally cared a lot. And I think that a few can rival his prowess on the microphone, from like these wild falsettos that he does, and to the booming bass notes that kind of accompany these growls and these raps, and it's just kind of sheer eccentricity here. And he stands as one of the most versatile vocalists to ever grace the earth, for real. And I think you and I know could kind of attest to this, that they're kind of known for their disdain for MTV and commercialism. And this is just kind of a masterpiece that's kind of forever going to be available for anyone that's out there. And if you are a new person to the band and you've never heard of Faith No More, shame on you, number one. And number two, go out and get this album. Go online and just kind of make this purchase, because this album is nothing short of extraordinary. And as I mentioned before, I think it's one of the best albums in the 90s. It's a timeless classic, and it's just kind of amazing. So I will just kind of stop babbling, because I could sit and I can kind of talk about it all night with you, Blake, because I really truly love this band. I have an old Faith No More shirt. I've got like an arsenal of old Faith No More shirts when I saw the band a few times. And I remember, I know you didn't mention like when was the last time you saw them. I remember I saw them at in Brooklyn. They were playing by the pier. And I remember when they came out, and I was literally in the front row, and I swear to God, I got smashed. Like I thought I was gonna die up front there. Like, everybody bum rushed the stage, And Larry Gatlin, I don't know if you're out there, and I don't know if you know, like he used to be like a writer. I forgot. I don't know if he used to write for Rolling Stone, and he was a good friend of mine. And Larry saw me like I was literally in distress. And this is like at one point, and I'm a pretty big girl. I'm 5'9". I'm not small, but I was getting crushed there at the front. And this guy just came out of nowhere, and he literally grabbed me from the front row and he pulled me out of there, like as best as he could to kind of get me out of that crowd. So that's a little bit of my story of like when I last saw them live, and that was incredible. I remember that I got some like awesome pictures, and they were all wearing these beautiful pastel suits, and I was just kind of in awe, like literally. I This was probably one of my best shows I've ever seen in my life. I'll never forget it, even though I almost got crushed.
Now, we usually do this after, but you already started it, so
You know what? Because it just, yeah, I was like, I just kind of like,
we probably talked about this on the Real Thing podcast too. But yeah,
right.
It was when they opened for Metallica and Guns N' Roses, so they only played for like 30 minutes probably. And I probably wasn't as big a fan then as I was later on or whatever like that. So it wasn't necessarily, I mean, it was memorable, I guess, seeing Faith No More, Metallica, and Guns N' Roses, but in one show. But anyway, yeah, but I don't remember much of it because it was so long ago. And like I said, they only played for like 30 or 40 minutes.
Right.
Okay. So let's get to the tracks, I guess. Oh, of course, it's called Angel Dust. And of course, I guess everybody knows that's a drug. And it kind of reflects the chaotic and dark themes on the album, I guess. And yeah, but Jim Martin, the guitarist, he didn't really like it. I guess there was a lot of fighting going on, and he was calling it I forget what he said, something disco. I forget what. I don't really know why he would call it that, but he just didn't seem to be into it or something, they were saying, and they wanted to play heavy riffs more, and he just wasn't into it. But that's why he left shortly after this album was released, I guess. And I don't even remember who filled in. I guess I should have looked that up, but I guess it doesn't matter. We're talking about this album. So Jim Martin's on this one. Okay. Land of Sunshine. Take it away, Georgina.
Well, Land of Sunshine, it starts off this album fresh with like this circus feel. You got Billy Gould's bass line that's like really hypnotically catchy. And there's almost no real chorus in the song, but somehow it's still one hell of a catchy experience. And the lyrics to most of the songs on this album in general, I believe, were written by Mike Patton while he was having like this sleep deprivation experiment. Did you hear about this?
Yeah.
Did you read about this? Yeah. So through these verses, Mike is basically reading the fortunes that you find from inside of the fortune cookies, and he basically is mocking TV infomercials. I love it. I love it. Like I swear to God, this album is like literally etched in my brain.
Yes,
Yep.
mine too.
Yep.
Yeah, and the fortune cookies. Yeah, so he would just put lyrics or those fortune cookies into the lyrics, like sing and rejoice, fortune is smiling upon you. And see, you are an angel headed for a land of sunshine, which of course is the name of the song, and pat yourself on the back and give yourself a handshake. Even though I've never seen any fortunes that said that on my fortune cookies, but maybe it's different. And I like the one lyric, and I mean, I like all the lyrics, even though they have a lot of lyrics that don't make sense or they're all over the place with their lyrics, like here with saying fortune cookies, just random things from fortune cookies. But I always like the lyrics. There's always lines that I love from Faith No More songs. So the one from this one I have is, does emotional music have quite an effect on you? I'd say yes. And speaking of, I don't know if that was, there was supposed to be a couple songs where he was on the caffeine thing, which of course the next track, of course, is called Caffeine. So of course this is one of the ones. Maybe it was that one too, with the sleep deprivation thing. So what do you think of Caffeine?
Well, I'm a caffeine addict and I love coffee. I could never drink enough coffee. And I mean, the opening of the song with the animal sounds and, the guitar riff, kind of reminiscent of Disturbed's The Night, song The Night. And you've got Patton's hardcore vocals as usual, and he's like taking the center stage, and everything just fits so perfectly. And you've got these pre-chorus stuff coming on, and then the bridge, and then this breakdown, and it really, really showcases Faith No More at their peak. And it's just a great song. Like I said, you will definitely not hear anything negative about any of these songs here. I love it. And I love caffeine. I'm a coffee drinker.
Yes, I love caffeine too. And yeah, so that's, you mentioned it before that he was doing some tests on sleep deprivation and stimulants, using stimulants, and that's how some of this lyrics came about. And I have the line here is relax. It's just a phase. Relax. It's just a phase. You'll grow out of it. And then we got to the first single, and this is one of the most famous tracks. And I was forgot to mention before we started, but I just had my daughter-in-law, I'll call her, had our grandson last week, a week ago, a week and a half ago, I guess. So we were taking care, me and my wife were taking care of my granddaughter. So my wife was at work, so I was taking care of her myself. She's like 1.5 years old.
What a good granddaddy. Oh my God. That's
And
so awesome.
she
I
was
wish my
eating
son had a.
she was eating
Aw.
breakfast, and so I thought I'm gonna turn YouTube on and play some Faith No More videos.
I saw that. Yeah, that was beautiful.
And then one of those, where people react to songs or whatever. So there was a vocal teacher or whatever, and Midlife Crisis was the song that she was reacting to. And so my granddaughter was standing right at the TV screen looking at this girl listening to Mike Patton screaming. And it was actually, I don't know why, but they did a version from The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, because they were guests on the show, and they did that version that the girl listened to while she whatever. But anyway, so this is a well-known song, Midlife Crisis. They played it on Tonight Show. So what do you think of Midlife Crisis? I know you like it, but I mean,
I totally like it. I was like, when I first heard it, I was like, I actually found it funny. I was like, oh my God, this is like an anthem for, people from the 80s and 90s, like listening to it now. I was like, this is kind of funny. I was like, there's some kind of comical stuff in jest here. But I read a little factoid there about this song that Midlife Crisis was partially inspired by Madonna herself, by Marge. And from what I had read, that there was a reason for this, and Patton revealed it at the time, that the song is based on a lot of his observation and kind of some speculation as well, but it kind of everything that he spoke about kind of pointed out to Madonna, and I think it was a particular time where we were all being bombarded with images of Madonna on TV and magazines, and her whole shtick, um, like she was going through some kind of, like, I don't know, problems, and she was getting a bit desperate, and she was just kind of all over the place. And that's actually what I read, that at least one of the things regarding a midlife crisis, and then another factoid on midlife crisis, is that it's the only song in pop music history to sample both Simon and Garfunkel and the Beastie Boys. Yeah, all that in there. So I was like, wow, this is really, really kind of cool. So there's a lot of punch in that song. Love it.
and of course, yeah, because it's called Midlife Crisis. At first, people are thinking, well, that's what the song's about, is a midlife crisis. But yeah, like you just said, and it had the working title Madonna.
Right.
Working titles, I guess, before they actually named the song. But yeah, that is what Mike Patton was doing. Said it wasn't about a midlife crisis. And I don't really have much to add to song because you're already saying a lot of what I was going to say.
Oh,
And
sorry,
I mean,
Blake.
well, no, it's okay. But I mean, I just love every song too, and I still listen to this album.
Yeah, me
This
too.
is I don't know if this is because I mean, The Real Thing is a great album. And this is a great album. And then the next two albums are also great albums to me. And then even the most recent one, Soul Invictus, or whatever.
Right.
I don't like it as good, but there's still some great songs on that one too. So everyone with Mike Patton, I love. And but anyway, this song, oh, my lyric line is, "You're perfect, yes, it's true, but without me, you're only you, Georgina."
Ah, thank you, Blake.
Okay, now we got the song RV. Here, I'll go first then, since you.
This is a great one. I remember when I first heard this.
Okay, so of course RV stands for recreational vehicle. And I guess I would say the song is sung from the perspective of a washed up middle-aged man who spends his time living in an RV, lamenting about his wasted life. And his Patton's vocal style on this, he's more talking than singing, really. It's almost like a poem kind of thing that he's doing. And there's lots of crazy lyrics in there. Like, I want to be just like you, then it'd be cool. That's how I feel about you too, Georgina. And
You flatter me, Blake.
and,
Thank you.
and then he says, "I'm a swinging guy, throw a belt over the shower curtain rod and swing." Whatever. It's just hilarious stuff, I think. So what do you
It
think of
is.
RV?
It is. It's this countryish song about a lazy, overweight, deadbeat dad who just doesn't seem to find happiness anywhere. And I hate to say it, but it's probably very relatable in the United States, and maybe with some people we might not know. I'll keep my mouth shut there. Especially the last few lines. I think if you could recall, like, I think it's time I had to talk with my kids. I'll just tell them what my daddy told me. You ain't never gonna amount to nothing. I mean, you have to love Mike and his brilliance. You really do. The guy's brilliant. Love him to pieces.
Yes, they're not very serious, even though it's a serious subject, I suppose.
Yes,
Like,
it is. It's a very serious subject.
but it's done tongue in cheek and stuff, and we're having fun about talking about whatever, a guy maybe committing suicide and stuff like that
Yeah.
in an RV. Did you have anything else to say about RVs? No.
Um, no, but I mean, I was like,
Or
no, no, no. But I think there's like a new era of people that like live out of their RVs, but it's actually very stylish. And these RVs are pricey. They're thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's not this type of RV, or at least what his vibe is kind of trying to kind of portray.
yeah. So that kind of, I guess RV is kind of a ballad in a way, country
Mhm.
ballad, like you said, I think, but it's not your typical rock and roll heavy metal ballad or whatever. It's just
No.
kind of goofy, but it's great. Okay. Now, smaller and smaller brings some heaviness back into it. So what do you think of smaller and smaller?
Well, it definitely does stand out, and you've got these like eerie synths, and you've got these like cool verses from Mike, and this fierce metal chorus, and these unusual like Indian chants, and then this booming bass in the bridge. In between the song, you can also hear Mike Patton doing some of those chants that you're going to later hear in Mr. Bungle albums if you're a Bungle fan, and even Fantomas albums in the future, which I love Mr. Bungle, and I've listened to Fantomas and a lot of his other stuff that he's done. So it's really, really cool. And I've got a little factoid that I read about this that Small and Small, like the band, almost never played Small and Small live. And while Faith No More played nearly every song from Angel Dust at least a handful of times in concert, and like several of the songs continued to kind of be featured regularly on their set lists. The band has never like been reluctant to play this at all live. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I read, and I was like, interesting. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
For some
I
reason,
didn't
they just,
I didn't
yeah.
check those whatever that website that plays. There's a lot of weird stuff in here, like as he says smaller and smaller a lot, like 10 times in a row at the end of the song. And he says bite, 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 cry, drain, whatever.
Right.
So I don't know. Yeah. But yeah,
I
it's
think
still a good
it,
song.
it is. It is. It is. It is. And
The
if
lyrics are a
I,
little weird on that one. So
they are.
I don't
They
really
are.
have one specific lyric that is too exciting, except they're all just weird.
There
I
was an
like,
article. There was an article that Billy Good said that I think it was, gosh, back in 2012 or something, like really way back. And he had said that it's great to listen to, but when it comes to playing live, that there were like these too many mid-tempo songs that make it really boring for the crowd. And he said that smaller and smaller, it was pretty grandiose in concept, and it always kind of felt too long, and it was too plotting to kind of even consider doing live. And that was another little factoid. So that's basically why they never really played it live, from what I read.
okay, then we go to Everything's Ruined. Um, let's see. Sorry, go ahead. You go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's a great song, and it's basically a song about a kid growing up to be a fraud. And you have these synchronized bass, you got some drums, you got this piano, and you've got some rapping from our beautiful Mike Patton person. It's a great song. I love it. I love it. I like I said, I know like practically every single lyric on this album, front and back, like in my sleep. It's a great song.
Well,
And
I like
everything is ruined. Everything is ruined. Damn it.
well, I like some of the lyrics on this one. Like we were like ink and paper, numbers on a calculator, knew
Yes.
arithmetic so well. and and then there's the thing about, let's see, a bouncing little baby, a shiny copper penny. It doesn't really
And
make
yeah,
sense one after the other, but but it's just still it's funny and yes, and yeah, everything is ruined. Now I wanted to mention something though about a video because I was reading this because this was I think the third video, yeah, because they had Midlife Crisis and A Small Victory, and they both were high concepts and big budgets, but this video was really cheaply made, and the band was asked why it was like that, and the easy answer was that Warner Brothers, or yeah, or maybe sorry, maybe not Warner Brothers, but a person named Warner spent all the video budget on the first two, so they didn't have any money left to do much with this one, so they just did a cheap as humanly possible video, and then they wanted to do like one of those video booths at a county fair and sing and dance in front of a blue screen, but they didn't get to do that. But they said they got as close as they could to that. And I do remember the video where there was a big turtle, I think, chasing them or something because they're on green screen and things like that. And it was just silly, of course, but it was still funny. And let's see. Oh, I like the one line. I didn't say this earlier, but when he lost his appetite, he lost his weight in friends. Again, I don't know what that means. It's clever. Okay, then we go to malpractice. And this is about, well, a medical malpractice, I think, and the fear of losing control. And it adds to the song's disturbing vibe. What do you think of malpractice?
well, it's got this thrashy flavor to it. And I read somewhere that it was that it's about a woman who goes to see a gynecologist um, because she's turned on by the fact that whatever, you get the idea here. And I was like, what? I was like, oh my gosh. And then like, you listen to it and you're like, maybe suggestive, maybe, yeah. The song is pretty much full of like these neat effects and samples and these like rhythm changes. You've got Mike screaming, he's coming back like really powerful on this song. And vocals are among like one of my favorites on the album. I think it's just great. And then you have bridge and adds like this cute little variety with the piano and then the soft vocals before turning into this powerful rock out, like cool string section. good stuff. This is like really great stuff. Love it.
And like I said, I love the lyrics, even though a lot of them doesn't make sense. But they're
Right.
just so funny. And like this near the end of the song, he keeps saying applause over and over again about 10 times. And then
Right.
the crowd roars, the gurgling and the groping, the rest 10 lovers violating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And let's see. Oh, I don't have that. I guess I've already mentioned lyrics. So, but yeah, it's like I love Patton screaming, like because I know some people I've talked to said they don't like Faith No More because of the screaming, but I just
I
love
love it.
he can do anything. And like that video I was watching where on Midlife Crisis, and the girl was so it was I guess the first time she heard him sing in the song, and she was so amazed at the different things he was doing with his voice and stuff and everything and stuff. So, I'm not a singer and I've never tried to sing, so I don't know anything about that. But I know this vocal teacher was pretty impressed anyway with Mike Patton's technique or whatever you want to call it. Okay, then we get to a little kiddie song called Kindergarten. What do you think of Kindergarten?
It's cute. It's cute. Kindergarten, basically, what I got is that he's telling the story of a man that was perpetually like held back, and he was like the king of kindergarten. Like, drinking fountains are shorter than they used to be, and the swings on the playground don't even fit me anymore. It features some of my favorite guitar parts and vocals on the album, and it's a great track leading into one of the album's, best work. And the chorus is just irresistibly catchy. It really is. In between the song, you'll be able to catch Mike Patton playing the role of, an auctioneer as well. And Martin's guitar shines amazingly on this song, I think. It's a great body of work. Love it.
And yeah, and the first line of the song is "Return to my own, vomit like a dog." I don't.
Yeah. I love you getting into the lyrics, Blake. I think it's awesome. Yeah, it's
Well, I
great.
like because most of the time I don't care about the lyrics, and
I love it. I think it's
I
great.
like because it's more about the music and the
Right.
performance first. But I've always liked Faith No More's lyrics just because they'll just throw out lines and go, "Oh, I love that line," even though it doesn't make sense with the line that comes after it or the line that came before it or something like that. But who cares? We're not writing poetry here. We're just writing hard rock, metal, alternative, whatever songs. But it's just funny and it's easy to remember and it's easy to sing along or whatever. And right at the end of the song, he says, "Held back again." I don't know. He doesn't know if he's going to graduate kindergarten second. I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, but yes, it's one of my favorite songs on. Okay, then we get to Be Aggressive, and now I have something important on this one, but I'll let you. You want to go first with Be Aggressive?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think I know what you might talk about, but I'm not going to mention it. You're giggling, so I'm assuming that you know what I'm talking about. Well, it starts with these organs, and then it explodes into this amazing instrumental and vocal work that is kind of all over this album. And you hear the cheerleader, saying in the chorus, "Be aggressive, be aggressive, BEAGGRESSIVE." And it might annoy some people, but it adds this really unique touch to this Faith No More spectrum. I love it. It's adorable. I love it. Lack of a better word, I love the song.
And
It's
of
great.
course, this song, as you know, Georgina, is about oral sex.
I knew you were gonna go there. Yes, it is. But
So
it's
that's
about
why
a man. It's about a man on man oral sex, though, from what I read.
okay, well
So,
that's I was gonna say because this was written by the keyboardist Roddy Bottom, who
hmm.
is gay or was I don't I'm assuming he's still gay, but at the time because I heard this on another podcast once that he wrote this song because he wanted to hear Mike Patton sing lyrics about being like gay stuff. So that's why he wrote this song because he wanted to see Mike Patton sing about oral sex and stuff with the guys.
All right.
So that's what it's about, I guess. As far as this other person was right, and it sounds like it could be true. That sounds like something they would do, and of course, the favorite line in it is I swallow, whatever." Okay.
Do you swallow Blake?
Okay.
Do you swallow Blake?
No,
Okay.
no. I'll edit that part out. Okay. Then we get to A Small Victory. And what do you think of this one?
It's a great mid-tempo song, and it's got this memorable start that really it sets it apart. The pre-chorus is really awesome, and it's a song about being a sore loser basically, and it's one of the highlights of the album. And despite the meaning of the song, it has a like really positive feel, and you have all these instruments, and the sound is great. It's definitely a must listen to for anyone who is an old fan that won't get tired of listening to this, or a someone who's just getting into this amazing band.
Now, I did
Yeah.
read that Mike Patton wrote this song of a relationship with his father about, I think, him coaching him playing sports or something like that. So,
Ah,
get something
interesting.
right. It was a small victory,
Gotcha.
I guess.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, then we go to Crack Hitler. They could have called the album Crack Hitler instead of Angel Dust. But anyway, Crack Hitler. Yeah, what do you think of Crack Hitler?
I remember when I first saw the title, I was like, wow, this is bold. I was like, this is going to be something else. And it was. And it's basically about a drug-addled Hitler. And it kind of works well. You've got like these Primus like verses and like this weird musical backdrop, and it turns this into like a classic Faith No More tune. And it basically talks about a guy who's a drug dealer, and he's taking the drugs himself. And the drug makes him think highly of himself to the point where he compares himself to Adolf Hitler. In regards to the usage of drugs, it modified his personality to that, to the extent that I was highly irritable. I was like crack Hitler. I mean, who would ever think of something like this? But it's definitely a unique song for sure.
Oops, sorry. Uh, yes, it's a weird title, of course. It's kind of a chaotic song, or comes to a chaotic climax, and more Patton screaming layered over the wall of sound and stuff from the music. And yeah, I guess it's supposedly, like you already said, but themes of guilt and redemption. And it's just I guess it's a dark song. I guess when you put Hitler in the song title, dark song. Then we go to Jizzlobber. Okay, what do you think of Jizzlobber?
This is a really heavy song from Faith No More. It's kind of almost like Cradle of Filth meets like the Melvins. And if I'm not mistaken, it's mostly written by Jim Martin. And as we all know, Jim would be kicked out of the band after this album. But I'm glad he didn't really leave on a bad note. And this is one of the most unique sounding metal songs I've heard. Uh, Everything from like this swamp like intro, and then Roddy's eerie keyboards, and Mike's loud ass drumming make this like one of my favorites, and it might even be one of yours too, Blake. I don't know. And then you have his Roddy's organ outro. It just kind of really fits perfectly.
Uh, Martin wrote the lyric. Oh yeah, Martin wrote the lyrics. Or sorry, which song are we on? Yeah, Jizzlobber. Martin wrote the music. And Martin and Pat lyrics. Yeah, I was thinking I read somewhere else, but I can't find my note on something about what the song also might be about, but I can't find it, so I don't want to say if it's wrong. Okay.
I heard that it was that it delved into Mike's fear of imprisonment
Mm-hmm.
somewhat. And it has this like outro similar to Be Aggressive, but it stands out in its own right. And his screaming, it just kind of sends chills down your spine. Really awesome stuff. Just love this guy.
And then we come to the closer. Now, I assume like this is the original album. They have an extra with the song Easy on it, but we don't need to talk about that, even though that's a great song too. But that's a cover, of course. And this last song is also a cover, instrumental cover of John Barry Prendergast. Gast, whatever. And I don't really know who that is. But anyway, it's just an instrumental. And of course, well, for me, we could have left that off because it's kind of weird. This is probably the only thing that I ever, if I listen to this album, I might skip this one and go back to the start and start again. I don't know. What do you think of this instrumental?
I love it. I love it. I really do. I love it. But I also I've seen Midnight Cowboy, and I think Dustin Hoffman is adorable, and John Voight was in this film as well. I mean, it was a great film. So when I heard this, I was like, man, I was like, look at this. I was like, he went there, and it just basically, I mean, the film is relatable, right? Because there's this theme of loneliness and disassociation of just kind of life and drug use and the escapes of, the ugliness of, the real world, melancholy, you name it, poverty. There's sadness in the film, and it was just kind of perfect for Mike to go there and tackle this. So when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna love this band till death. And I will.
And well, that's the album. And what are you
Yeah.
giving it out of 10?
What do you think? This is getting a perfect 10. Every Faith No More album, Mike, if you're listening, gets a perfect 10 out of this
You
band.
mean every Faith No More album with Mike? You mean then?
Yeah. I mean, they were like, oh, Faith No More. Courtney Love was in Faith No More. Yeah, for like a week or 2 days.
Well, yeah, she tried.
I was like, no way.
I think she tried out for the band. There's a few. I like a few of the songs from the first singer there, but it's more weirder on a bad thing than the weirder good thing that came when Patton joined or whatever. Now, there's a lot of good accolades about this album. I don't know. You probably read some of this too, but I'll just go over some of them. I'll pick out some. In 2022, Guitar World magazine, it was the number 2 album for the 30 greatest rock guitar albums of 1992. Let's see, Metal Hammer in 2006, the United Kingdom magazine, the 200 greatest albums of the 90s, and it was in there. Let's see, Kerrang magazine in 2003, also United Kingdom, the 50 most influential albums of all time, and it had a rank number 1 for that one. And there's a lot of magazines out of Germany, bunch in United Kingdom that it was in the albums of the year list, and it's probably in my, it's in my, I don't remember what number I placed it in, but it was in my top 50 metal albums of all time. Probably with the other 4 Faith No More ones with Mike Patton, or I guess it's 5, but the 4 before the last one. I think I had them all in my top 50 somewhere. And let's see, this album also peaked at number 10 in US Billboard charts. It peaked at number 2 in the United Kingdom album charts. And it made it to 12 in Canada, 4th in Australia. But this, I think this, even though you think The Real Thing with Epic would be the biggest selling one, but I think this, I read that this one was the biggest selling Faith No More album. This one. But anyway, so there we go. I guess we don't. Do we need to say anything else about Faith No More in this album?
Yeah, and I would just say, give it a listen, and you'll understand how this album, transcends, and it kind of defies just being categorized, and it's an artistic triumph at its peak. And I hate to sound so cliche, but it definitely does. So we'll have to bow deeply to Mike Batten and then all his bandmates and thank the heavens for blessing us with this masterpiece that was crafted from angel dust. Yeah, it's beautiful, it's hideous, and so sing and rejoice and buy this album.
Yes, and yeah, and it was a big influence to like bands like Korn and Slipknot, I guess, stuff like that. They had
Definitely, yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff. So now, and we're gonna finish off. I guess I was gonna say the start of the episode. I forgot. So hopefully, people are still listening, even if you don't like Faith No More, so you can hear our top 10 albums of 1992. And I looked through all the albums that were listed that came out in 1992, and I could pick 10 off it for sure. And these 10 I still listen to regularly. Like usually when I get into the 90s, there's only 3 or 4 albums that I listen to regularly. So picking the order of this 10 was kind of hard because like I would
Yeah.
say, let me see, my top where's number 8? I would say my top 8 I listened to so much back then, and I still listen to them all. Like I say, all 10 of them I still listen to, or I would say 9 of the 10 I still listen to regularly. I'll throw it on Spotify or whatever and say I want to listen to this album today or whatever. So I guess I'll go for, since I just said all that, I guess I'll go first. So my number 10 album is Testament, The Ritual. Now that's probably one that I don't listen to as much as all the other ones, but the rest I do. So Ugly Kid Joe, I've always loved Ugly Kid Joe, even though they're a little softer than most of the stuff I usually listen to, but I like Whitfield Crane's voice there, and so it was America's Least Wanted that's when they were at their peak, I guess you would call it, for MTV and all that stuff. Number 8, I got Alice in Chains with Dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7, I got Manowar, Triumph of Steel. Number 6, I got Pantera with Vulgar Display of Power. Did we do that podcast, or was that?
We definitely did. We definitely did.
So we did that podcast already. Check it out. Number 5, I got Ministry with Psalm 69.
That might be a good podcast. Then we should do something with Ministry.
Yeah, I don't know. Was there another name? Oh yeah, the something about sucking eggs. I forget the other name of the album. But anyway, Psalm 69 is a short name. Okay, number 4, I have Suicidal Tendencies, Art of Rebellion. Because I love Suicidal Tendencies.
I know. I knew you were gonna put that in there.
Number 3, I got the doom metal band Trouble with Manic Frustration. Trouble, another one of my favorite bands. Number 2, I got Dream Theater, Images and Words. Now, probably if we were doing this back in 93, say, the year after, that probably would have been my number 1 because I was so much into this album, the Dream Theater album, and Great, and the next few albums. So I was so into it. But if I'm saying now, of course, my number 1 obviously is Faith No More, Angel Dust. So that's my top 10 albums of 1992. So there was 10 great albums, and I think White Zombie would be my 11th with their whatever the fuck that one was called. I didn't write it down, but that would have been my 11th if I had to pick 11.
La Sexo Crystal.
Yeah, that one.
We did a podcast on that too.
Okay, let's hear your top 10.
Okay. The 90s were great. I'll admit, I went totally commercial on this top 10 because there was a lot of stuff that was just kind of being drilled on MTV, and I'm a 90s kid. 10 is Ministry, Psalm 69. You get that one. I put Megadeth. I'm sorry, Ministry, Psalm 69 was 10. Megadeth is number 9, Countdown to Extinction. 8 is Alice in Chains, Dirt. I actually threw Helmet in here as number 7, Meantime. 6 is Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark. I kept a little classic in there. 5, I put Stone Temple Pilots, Core, as number 5. They're actually going to be on tour with Live. I just saw something the other day, which I was obviously, they've got a different vocalist, but they're going to be touring soon, which I thought was interesting. Number 4, Rage Against the Machine, self-titled Rage Against the Machine. 3, y'all know I'm a White Zombie fan. 3 is White Zombie, Last Sex or Christo, Devil Music Volume 1. Number 2, it's another one of my favorite albums, Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power. And number 1 is Faith No More, Angel Dust. So I'm right behind you there, Blake, on that one. Number 1.
I figured.
Yeah, did you?
Yes, I did.
Do you know anything about the album cover? While we were just kind of sitting here, I was like, it just kind of struck me to kind of wonder, because I always wondered, what is the meaning behind this album cover? Do you know? And what kind of bird that is?
I read something about it, but I wouldn't be able to find because I didn't make a note of it.
It's according to what I'm like reading right now. I just literally pulled it up. It's a great egret. That's the name of the bird. And Bonham stated that he chose the name um, because it summed up what they did perfectly, and that it's a really beautiful name for a really hideous drug, and that should make people think. Similarly, the artwork contrasts one beautiful image with a gruesome one by depicting a soft blue airbrushed great aigrette on the front. So these two kind of deep, different things. So I was like, okay. I was like, I didn't really think about that, but I was like, okay. I was like, great aigrette. It's cute.
And what about the back cover?
Oh gosh, you're gonna make me look. I don't know. Angel Dust
Okay,
album
well,
cover.
I have.
What do you have? You have that one? Go ahead. I was like, you
Well,
caught me off
there's an
guard there.
image of a cow hanging on a meat hook,
Right.
on a meat hook, and let's see. They said the image on the rear of the album is not based on support for vegetarians, but rather a preview of the music, suggesting its combination of being really aggressive and disturbing, and then really soothing. I'm not sure what that has.
Yeah, that's Faith No More. It is. That's the essence of Faith No More.
Beautiful with the sick. I
Yeah.
guess, and inside, or I read something where the record label or somebody wanted them to put some poster or something inside the album, and they said, "No, this is our fucking album, our music. We're not doing that or whatever." I don't know what it was. They said whatever, but there was some picture of them with some army people or something that I think is on the Midlife Crisis single cover or something.
Hmm.
And that was something that the record label wanted inside, but they said they didn't want it inside or something.
I
They
think
said, "Fuck you." Okay.
right. I can see them saying that. I think Faith No More fans are special.
Yeah, like me.
Yes. 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 Faith No More fans are special.
Excuse me. Okay, I don't know if we'll get to the other two Faith No More albums sometimes. I know I listen to them, like I say, all the time, or not all the time, but if I can't find anything to listen to on my phone, then I'll think, oh, I'll just put on some Faith No More.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Whenever I go out with like my friends, or there's a jukebox, whatever, like a local watering hole or whatever, like standard, like there's always a Faith No More song. Like even I hate to say it, even karaoke, metal karaoke. There was a metal meetup group that we would kind of get together every Thursday night, every once in a while. And when metal karaoke would come up, like I'd pick a Faith No More song to sing.
Well, I never do karaoke.
You should try it someday. It's a lot of fun. Get some liquid courage going, and then woo!
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's our episode. Thanks, Georgina, for joining me.
Anytime, Blake, especially with Faith No More, I'm your girl. I will talk about them and Mike, my forever crush, anytime.
Okay, thanks everybody for listening. Oh, I know what the next episode is going to be. Now it's going to be a little different than regular, but it's gonna me and Eric, another one of the writers, we're gonna talk about the first 5 AC/DC albums with Bon Scott as the vocalist.
Oh, wow.
We're not gonna do every song and every album, or that'd be a 5-hour podcast, but we're just gonna kind of go over the albums quicker. But we're gonna pick like our 3 favorite songs from each of the albums, because I love Bon Scott and AC/DC. The old, like, I love Bon Scott AC/DC. I don't mind Brian Johnson AC/DC, but I really, because that's one of the first bands I ever heard. I think was the AC/DC with Bon Scott. My brother had the albums and stuff, so I listened to it. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna do on the next podcast, which should be next week, because we're gonna start doing them once a week again. So again, check out our website, themetalpit.org, and follow us Instagram, Facebook, like our podcast, follow Spotify, whatever, everything. And if you have any questions, email me. Get the email at the start of the episode. Okay, thanks everybody for listening, and goodbye.
Bye, everybody.